Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today I am joined by Garrett Yamasaki. Garrett has a wonderful story about a brand he's created, which started as a content website and has grown into a full e-commerce Amazon FBA brand. It starts with the same kind of beginnings as most of the website creators and content creators we interview. He was solving a problem for himself. Him and his wife were looking for a specific type of dog and couldn't find the right information online. He started a website and started cranking out content every day, getting up at the crack of dawn and writing before work, going into his engineering job at some big places like Google and the like, doing his 9 to 5, coming home and finishing that article. He published 100 articles in the first couple months that his site was live. That got him traction so that he could grow the site over the next couple of years by hiring writers and editors, publishing a lot of content. He grew the website to where it was doing very well with ad revenue and generating around $10,000 a month from Amazon affiliates. But he kept looking at the amount of money that he was getting from Amazon affiliates, but realizing he only was getting 2 to 3 to 4% commission, which is something that a lot of us understand and really dislike. He was generating $200,000 to $300,000 of sales on Amazon affiliates, but only getting about 10,000 of that because of the commissions and how low they are. So he went out to start his own brand and create his own products. And so the second half of the interview, we get to hear all about how he started sourcing product from overseas, how he priced it, how he built out an Amazon FBA brand that now is generating over $4 million projected in 2023. He's gone from one product that he launched with to 8 products right now to 20 products by the end of the year. And he still has a very successful website that's getting hundreds of thousands of page views a month and generating tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. So we get to hear about the entire process, the A to Z, and I learned a ton. And certainly the first thought you have when you hear this is, if I have a website, how do I make an e-commerce play? How do I go from getting 2 to 4% on my affiliate commissions to, as he was saying, 20 or even 30% margins on the e-commerce brand that he has now? He's certainly grown a second e-commerce or second brand outside of his website, which gives him a lot more scalability and a lot less reliance on things like Google traffic. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this interview, whether you're in content creation and niche websites or whether you're building out an e-commerce brand and trying to sell products. Enjoy. Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
We got 20 links and placements on massive websites such as The Express, Mirror, Daily Record, and many more with a campaign about the pros and cons of popular diets. How about? This is exactly how we've done it. Our client is a very popular fitness client. We have asked them to provide thorough expert commentary about the pros and cons of the most popular diets. Once we have this information, we put this in a nice email and send it out to 15,000, yes, 15,000 journalists from around the world that write about fitness. So good. And unhealthy. Big publications picked up our story from the email, giving our client massive, juicy, saucy, healthy links that are 100% relevant to their website and that will keep the rankings of the website in a great shape. You see what I've done there? I hope this case study inspires and that you will start leveraging expert commentary type campaigns to land links to your or your client's website, just like we've done it with this campaign.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today I'm joined by Garrett Yamasaki. Garrett, welcome on board.
Nice to meet you, Jared. Really happy and excited to be on this podcast.
It is. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us. I know that you have a kind of a fun story. You met Spencer a couple weeks ago at a conference, and here we are talking about your business on the podcast.
Yeah, so funny story real quick. I've been following Spencer for maybe 10 years or so, and we have similar hobbies. We've run the Boston Marathon, and we're both long distance runners. So It was great meeting him and his son at the Seller Summit a couple weeks ago, and excited to jump on his podcast.
I'm leaning over here. I see we also share a similar book. Yours is in the background. Mine's on my desk. We had Steve Chu on a couple months ago on the podcast, so we're in good company here. I got his new book. I see you have it as well.
Yeah, Steve's a great guy. I was on his podcast a few months back.
That's awesome. Well, we're talking all about your business and the progression you've had. It's a very interesting story. It's going to be exciting. It delves into a number of different topics that we talk about here in the podcast, ranging from content sites, niche sites, all the way into e-commerce, creating your own brand, your own product line. So, going to be something here really for everyone. Why don't you maybe give us some background or backstory on yourself to catch us up to where you started this brand we're talking about today?
Yeah, sure. I'll just give you a quick backstory. Um, I went to college. I did electrical engineering, so it was nothing related to SEO, nothing related to content sites. But quickly working a corporate job, I knew that it wasn't for me. When you're an engineer, you spend a long time working on certain products, and sometimes they don't get launched, and it's hard to get an explanation why. So I knew that the corporate world wasn't for me. I wanted to see the big picture. I wanted to see how everything worked together, which is why I also picked up SEO. And so I've been working on SEO probably since like 2012, but I really didn't find success in it until around 2018 when I did start a dog website. And, I was working a full-time job at the same time as running and starting this site, which generated no money at the time. And then here we are today, roughly 5 years later, and it's been a pretty big success. And I do work full-time on it now, and so it's very exciting.
What was it about how you were doing SEO for 5 years, for the first 5, 6 years? I mean, I think you said 2012 to 18, so probably 6 years of, again, to borrow your words, failing at SEO, to then succeeding, to being able to leave your job, to being able to go full time on it. Like, that is quite a shift, obviously. What changed in the way you did it, or the approach you took, or what caused you to be able to start being successful at it?
Yeah, I think in 2012 it was more just dabbling. Like I didn't understand really how it worked. It wasn't until I was working in tech at the time, so I worked at Texas Instruments, Broadcom, and then I worked on Google Assistant and on YouTube. So it wasn't really until the later years in technology when I really started taking search engine optimization seriously. And that's when kind of the shift happened when I was like studying it pretty religiously before work and after work. And then, you know, actually dedicating myself to creating a site. And it's pretty scary at the beginning, right? Because you're basically going to be sitting there spending a long time blogging. Nobody is going to read it for months, right? So it's it's hard to dedicate yourself and really spend the time to develop a business and see it
Well,
grow.
if you were working at Google, you should have just walked down the hall, popped in at the search department. Maybe they were all out to lunch and just, checked in the algorithm. I don't know. Maybe they frown on that. I don't know.
Yeah, that was also helpful. Like when you work corporate job, take advantage of your opportunities, and that is working with extremely smart people.
Yeah.
And so you can understand how things work better because I'm just really an average guy who works pretty hard. But in terms of my intelligence, I wouldn't consider myself like a top guy, but I can learn quickly from the people that, spend a lot of time developing the algorithm and whatnot. So that's how I got into it.
It's interesting because on the I mean, I've been hosting the podcast for a couple of years now, and we tend to have guests that come from somewhat like similar backgrounds or buckets. I'll say like I see a lot of lawyers who succeed in SEO. I see a lot of journalists who succeed in SEO. Engineers, another one that we see a good amount on the podcast that has had success in SEO. What about your engineering background kind of lended you well to SEO, you think?
Yeah, I think it's more engineering has nothing to do with SEO. Like people will be like, oh, it's data driven. But I would say if you're going to start a website or start a business in general, you have to have the traits and you got to know that you want to do it to succeed and be passionate about it. I think that's the most important part. Um, so it's nothing like, oh, I'm studying a circuit design and then it's going to translate to SEO. No, it's just more like dedicating yourself in hard work. I think hard work and a lot of luck is what makes a business succeed.
There you go. You heard it from Garrett. If you're an art major, don't worry. You can be just as successful in SEO as the engineers. So,
Yeah.
so 2018, you started this website we're talking about today. It's in the, I think you said the dog niche. And
Yeah.
maybe take us through the first steps there. You were still working full time, is that correct?
I was still working full time. Yeah, I had a full-time corporate job, and I would wake up really early in the morning, and then I would also work really late at night. So basically, I had a 9 to 5 job, and I would probably wake up around 7 uh, a.m. and we would start work. I would start just writing an article, and so maybe you can pump out an outline in 500 words in a couple hours, and then I would try to come home and write, you know, throughout the day I'd just be brainstorming what to write, and then you can quickly write the rest of the words, like 800 words, so 1500 words or so, and then hit publish by the time you go to bed. So that was kind of my thought process and strategy. I was not a great writer at the time. I just knew that I wanted to try something out in this specific niche because my wife was also looking for a golden doodle, which is a specific type of dog breed at the time, and when I was Google searching, there was not a lot of information on it because it is a crossbred dog.
Hmm.
So a lot of the larger organizations like the American Kennel Club will not blog about this type of dog because it's considered a mutt. So I kind of started really early on and knew that there wasn't a lot of information on this dog breed, but it was becoming it was becoming very popular.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear so much success can come from having a problem and then realizing that there is not a good solution for it and deciding to solve it. Let's talk about maybe the first bit of time. You talked about how you would write articles. Like maybe walk us through like how you chose topics, how you picked keywords of sort, especially you were going down a route that you were interested in and for a problem you're trying to solve. But forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think at the time you started you were an expert in golden doodles or dogs or these kind of things. So I'm just curious to hear how you would write these articles and how you create this content about these topics, how you would even pick topics.
Yeah, so at the time, there was a 7-day free trial to Ahrefs, and I would sign up and then just get a huge list of topics. I think there was maybe like 100 or 200 topics at the time. I don't think Ahrefs does that free thing anymore, so you can use SEMrush now and probably do 14 days, and you can just essentially type in your keyword and then look at the difficulty score for all these topics and all these questions. And I would really focus on, things that have a very low difficulty score. So I was targeting things with like 5 difficulty on SEMrush, and then maybe there was like 50 searches per month. So there was really no competition at all, and that's what I really started with like back then. If I were to start today, I would take a little bit more technical approach to it and try to create like a topical silo
Hmm.
of a specific topic because I'm a huge believer in semantic SEO and topical authority. So I would try to create something like a topical cluster around a specific keyword that I can eventually rank for, and then create everything in the same topic. Back at the time, I was kind of focusing on a lot of different dog breeds, golden doodles, labradoodles, bernedoodles, so all these different type of crossbred dogs with a poodle. But I would have been a little bit more technical about it in terms of creating a cluster map first. But that's how I started back then. You just write low competition keywords and you can rank pretty easily.
Good distinction. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, topical authority. I mean, I'm sure the purists would argue that it was a thing back in 2018, 2019, but I think we can agree it wasn't as much of a thing as it is now, and the importance of it now is far greater. I realize I jumped right into hearing about your website, but I do like to start giving everyone a vision into where you're at now because it kind of helps people understand a little bit better about the story or the path we're on. So, at the risk of like just jumping in with this concept because I didn't do it at the beginning, tell us just in 1 to 2 minutes about where this brand is at now, everything that's going on, and then we'll continue to kind of unwind and how you built it, okay?
Yeah, sure. So this brand is pretty successful. It's on AdThrive. So, I think minimum users per month is 100,000, and we're AdThrive Platinum Elite or something like that. So you can kind of estimate that we probably get around 1 million page views per month or somewhere close. And then we also created an Amazon FBA store, which means, we we actually have physical products nowadays. We only have 8 parent products today, so this would be like dog brushes, dog shampoos, dog detanglers, specific for a poodle or poodle mixed breed. And then this year, we just launched last year and we did just north of $1 million, and this year we'll probably do over $4 million. So on the FBA side, we've seen a lot of success, and a lot of that's virtually all the success comes from having a blog and then being able to direct that traffic to buying something e-commerce,
Okay,
which is
perfect.
our product and our brand.
Yeah, so you've got success in the SEO side. The website's very sustainable on its own regard, but yet then you take all that traffic and instead of sending it over to Amazon, you're sending it to your own products that you've developed. This is a good story for us to get into. So,
Yeah.
okay, rewinding back. Sorry, I do that at the beginning, and I don't know why. I do this every week, and it slipped my mind. So I apologize. You rolled with it nicely. That's where we're headed. Let's get back into the details. It's 2018, 2019. You're cranking out articles based on a 7-day trial on Ahrefs, which I did before, by the way, a bunch myself. And you're right, I think it is gone, which is too bad. But there are a lot more keyword research tools out there than there were back in our day. So, tomato, tomato. Like, how long did that go on for? How long were you able to crank out articles at the morning and at the evening? When did you start seeing traction from this? Were there any other things you were doing in that first bit of time to help the website grow?
Yeah, so I went really hard the first 3 months. I'd say the first 3 or 4 months, I probably pumped out close to 100 articles. So
Whew.
if you can imagine, I was writing pretty much one per day, and that was by myself. I knew this wasn't very sustainable, and I was going to burn out. So I probably paused for like a couple weeks, and then I looked at the traffic score, and it was kind of like exponential. So I was seeing a lot of traffic starting around month 4 through 6. And right then and there, I knew that this could be a viable business long term. If anything, it could just be some sort of passive income where I could hire someone to manage it. But right then and there, I knew that I wanted to invest in it. So I started hiring people, right? Because you have to learn how to scale. If you can't scale a business, you'll never be successful. So that was the hardest part for me. But in the beginning, it was just all me sitting there writing in front of a computer.
That is brutal. I'm glad you got some uptick within 4 to 6 months because that's a lot of hours you put in at the outset. I mean, this is kind of a softball type question, if you will, but like, were you ever hitting periods of burnout before you started hiring? Were there ever times where you're like, this is not going to work out, or maybe it will work out, but it's not worth it? I don't have this many hours in my weeks for much longer.
Um, that's a good question. I think you can't think about that though when you're when you're first starting because you're blogging to nobody, you're gonna have no traffic, and your motivation is just not there. But you have to wake up and want to do it yourself. Like find joy in writing and turn something negative into a positive. And that's what I kind of did for 3 or 4 months until I realized that all the money that I'm making, I think I was like barely on Google AdSense at the time, but all the money I was making, I wanted to put back into scaling because I didn't need the money at the time. So
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question because there's definitely people listening right now that are in, say, month 2, or maybe month 4, or maybe even month 8, and they haven't gotten that kind of traction, and they just, it's so hard to stick with it. But, in order to get through the other side, that's what's required. So, maybe one more question on that. When you hit that point where you started to see that traffic, I'm just curious. Like, you talked about how you were writing about a variety of doodle breeds, golden doodles and labradoodles, and I didn't catch all the other doodles there are, but like, were you seeing any trends in certain types of traffic or certain types of articles that were taking off initially? Or was it just, like you said, like kind of a lot of randomness was happening in terms of traffic to correlate with a lot of random types of articles you were writing?
yeah, that's a good question. So in the beginning, if you're targeting the right keyword and the right keyword difficulty score and you're Googling your query in Google to understand kind of what is the top ranking sites, you should be seeing some traffic. Like I'm a strong believer, like 4 to 6 months, if you're not seeing anything, then you're targeting the wrong keywords, and that's probably you need to shift your approach. But to answer your question, in the beginning, yeah, I was seeing a lot of traffic right away in a specific niche of dogs. So let's say I was writing about like 6 dog breeds, and I was seeing more traction on one dog breed. So then we just doubled down on that specific dog breed and started writing content, and like it kind of goes to the topical authority and semantic SEO idea that if you can become an authority on one dog breed, then Google will rank you regardless of kind of what you put out. So we did focus on that one dog breed a lot, and that's what kind of spurred the exponential growth in traffic.
Well, very good. Okay, so there it is. So you're off to the races, and I don't know the next steps of your story because in our timeline here, I have the next couple years truncated into like a line or two. So walk us through this next bit of time. You got traffic, you've gotten through 100 posts, and you've committed to now hiring people, which by the way is no easy task in and of itself. But I'm just curious, like, what does scale look like? What does the next year look like? And we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, so by 2019, I knew that we were going to basically be putting a lot of money into this. And so I put some of my own money into it. And I think it was like either Spencer or Matt Diggity who said like the best writers that they found were moms from the Midwest. So I don't know, from whatever concept this was, I posted on Upwork, I posted on a lot of job postings to try to get the right writer. And at the time it was just one. So 2019, we probably had one writer, and they were working full time, so we can almost double our content production. And then probably by the end of 2019, we probably had around 10 writers or so between full time and part time.
Yeah.
One editor and one virtual assistant that would upload the articles onto our website. But we scaled fairly quickly. So that's the idea.
What was in terms of your scaling efforts? I'm trying to create a little bit of a chart or graph in my mind. Were you spending ahead of the curve by and large, where you were bringing on writers and paying for new content in excess of what the site was making? Or were you going about it like going, okay, the site made $1,000 this month, we'll put $1,000 back into it. Okay, site made $2,000 this month, we'll put $2,000 back into it in terms of writing.
Yeah, everything the site made, I put back in, plus some of my own money in the beginning, just to, you kind of feel good about employing people and giving them a job and whatnot. So I did put some of my own money back in addition to what the site was earning at the time. Because in the beginning, you're not making that much, especially if you're on Ezoic or you're on Google Ads. So you need to find a way to, because I believed in the project personally myself, so then I put some of my own money in too. But it really wasn't that much before we really started to take off and it started to pay for itself. But every time, I did see excess income, I did try to hire more people.
Yeah. So 10 writers by 2019, somewhere in that year. Maybe talk a bit about the process you set up or what the actual workflow looked like for your team. And I'm especially talking to somebody who's working full time right now and, moving maybe from writing for a website that's growing and into managing a team that is still growing a website, but team management looks very different than sitting down and writing before work and after work.
Right. So in the beginning, I think writing your own articles actually helped me a lot because it made me understand like what was a good writer versus what was a bad writer. And then it also helped me identify like writing an SOP. I think writing an SOP and having a writer follow your outline and your template makes it very easy for them and it's hard to mess up. So that's kind of what helped me in the beginning. And then, the way that the team works now, and it still works more or less to this extent today, is I'm still doing the keyword research. So I strongly believe that the best skill that I have is doing keyword research. I probably hired like 3 people and I couldn't find someone who was as good as me on keyword research. So I firmly believe that is a very important skill to have. So I still do the keyword research and list out the topics and create the topical clusters. And then the next step is that I assign it to a writer. So usually by this point we'll have like a very brief template. What is the primary keyword? What is the secondary keyword? What are some FAQs that they can include in the topic? And then of course you have your kind of SOP on what you want to be written. So once the writer writes it, then they eventually hand it to the virtual assistant. The virtual assistant will upload it to our WordPress website and do very basic formatting, images, external, internal linking. And then after that, we have an editor kind of come through that is like, it has extremely fluent English and they're also very good at SEO. So then they kind of put the final touches on and then we publish it. So that's kind of what the flow looks like from even our team today, even at scale.
That is a very simple workflow.
Yeah,
I
there's
like
nothing
it.
complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Very easy to emulate, I would say, for people listening. In terms of, by the way, I agree. Keyword research is very hard to let go of. And once you get good at it, it's a lot easier than you can get through keyword research much quicker than you can, say, writing an article or even editing an article. So that's a good tip there. All right, so how's traffic doing? How's earnings doing as we're going through 2019 and maybe even as we get into 2020 here? I mean, obviously, we interview a lot of people like landmark event in terms of traffic and certainly probably for e-commerce is that 2020 shift into COVID. But where was traffic and earnings as you moved through 2019 and into 2020?
Yeah, so 2019 was the year where I knew it was going to make it big. And I think 2020, 2021, we just spent scaling. So I think we're eventually on AdThrive by like 2021 or maybe even slightly earlier than that. But we were eventually, I didn't see any kind of setback until this year in 2020-2023. So really our traffic has just been increasing, almost not at an exponential rate like in the beginning. I think in the beginning you should see a lot more traffic right away, all the way up till 2020. But by the time 2021 and 2022, we are still growing, just at a slower pace because once you get to, I don't know, 500,000 page views per month, it's hard to scale exponentially past that unless you're targeting really high volume keywords. But at the time, we were still targeting very low competition, low volume keywords.
Were you going about it when you were scaling the content? Like, were you trying to do this topical silo type of thing? Like, let's do everything on a golden doodle I can find, and then we'll move on? Or because you were scaling so fast, was it, I got this person, they can do the golden doodle stuff. I got this person, they can do the labradoodle stuff. Heck, doodles, forget it. Let's just do everything, Like, how were you kind of tackling the topics?
Yeah, it probably wasn't until the end of 2021 when we first started doing like really in-depth clusters. In the beginning, we were just targeting anything that had a very low difficulty keyword score, and then if we saw one breed go, we would write more articles on that one breed. But I really didn't know anything about that in depth at the time, like we do now. So
Yeah.
really, we were just pumping out a lot of content. At one point in time, we were averaging probably 500,000 words per month for the website. So as you can imagine, that is a lot of content going onto one website. And the more content you have targeting these very low competition keywords, then the more traffic you're essentially going to get.
So, two milestones occurred in this time range we're talking about. At some point, you quit your job and
Yeah.
you went full time on this. And then at some point, you also made a transition to start looking at and growing an FBA brand. How did they play? What was the timeline of both of those? And then, like, if you could try to remember, what were revenues like? What was profit like? What was page views or traffic like? Like, where was the site at when you made these two milestone decisions?
Yeah, so everybody is probably, if you have a content site, you're probably on Amazon Associates. And so I think it was around 2020. Like I keep track of earnings, we do it every month. But I saw that the Amazon affiliate side was growing pretty rapidly. Like maybe it was like 1,000 per month, and then by 2021 we were probably definitely close to earning around 10,000 per month. And then at that point in time, if you sum everything together and Amazon is only paying you 2 or 3%, you realize that you're selling between 200,000 and 300,000 worth of Amazon products yourself. And that kind of, like what if we could create a product, insert it into our articles and then sell at a higher, 2 to 3% is nothing. You could be making 30 or 40% profit margin pretty easily. So that was kind of my thought process that occurred back in probably end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And so what had happened was I went on what most people would do is I went on AliExpress and I went on Alibaba and you type in when you download your Amazon affiliate report, it will tell you exactly what you're selling. So just look at the number 1, number 2, and number 3 product. Go on Alibaba, try to find a private label. And so that's what I did in the beginning. And that's kind of how the FBA business and the brand got started. So for everybody selling on Amazon today, download your affiliate report and look at your top 3 or 4 products of what you're selling, and see if there's an opportunity for you to transition to FBA, diversify your traffic, and kind of build a brand. But that's how we started, and that's kind of what had happened. So it was probably 2021 when we started looking into these affiliate products, and then by 2022 we had launched our first brush product. So this was maybe like March of 2022, so really not that long ago. And so it took about a year to develop. So definitely get started today if you're looking into getting into FBA. Between the shipping times from China, and then you're probably getting 3 or 4 samples, and then by the time they go to production and then ship it over to Amazon FBA, it's going to take you 6 months to a year. So get started today. But this was back in 2022 when we first launched, and then you know the sales are pretty exponential on Amazon as well. And then we did almost 1 million in sales, or probably just a little bit over 1 million in sales for our brush alone. And that's when I knew that I should probably quit my full-time job and do this full-time. So at the end of 2022, I quit my job, and then kind of now we're here. Yeah.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
High-tier backlinks in publications such as Daily Post, MSN, Birmingham Mail, and many more. Let me show you how we've done it. The campaign was pretty simple. We looked at the number of Instagram followers for each contestant in the Dancing on Ice show that aired in January. We sorted the contestants by the most popular ones. Now we've had the most influential Dancing on Ice contestant. Then we've also used an Instagram earnings calculator to calculate how much every contestant could make from one post on Instagram based on the number of their followers and engagement rate. Then we put these findings in a nice press release and an email, and we found the relevant journalists with a tool called Roxhill, where we looked at journalists who covered the show in the past 30 days and sent the findings and the press release to these journalists. And then the links started landing like this and this and this and many more. I hope this inspires and shows you that you can build links with simple and basic campaigns.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now. So I have a whole host of questions as it relates to the Amazon affiliate side of things and then transitioning into selling your own product. Help us out who are new at this. Like you said, let's say we download our affiliate sales from Amazon.
Right.
Or heck, even from maybe a private affiliate, and you're getting 8%, but you're downloading the products that you're selling frequently. You go on Alibaba and you find some other ones. Now, talk about the difference in white labeling a product that already exists versus like working with a vendor to develop your own product. And like, are there differences? What are the ups? What are the downs? Are they the same thing? And I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but maybe help people out who are trying to think through that.
Yeah, so white labeling is essentially you're putting your brand on a specific product and selling it today. So from my perspective, it was a faster time to market, or sorry, they call it private labeling or white labeling, but it was a faster time to market. And I knew I just needed to get something to the market today. And so that's the approach that I took. All my products today are private labeled or white labeled is what you want to call it. They just have my brand on it today. But we essentially identified some manufacturers, and then we branded it for our market. So we're not developing new products today. We're not doing anything special. The only special part is that we are putting, our products on our blog, and then they sell through the blog. And, if you can generate external traffic to Amazon, Amazon also ranks you very highly in their platform. And so you can get a product to the first page of Amazon pretty easily if you're driving external traffic. In external.
So you chose private label. Okay, that makes sense. I think private label is a word that's tossed around, or a term that's tossed around a lot. Why not develop your own product? Just out of curiosity, devil's advocate. Why would someone choose to go private label when they're thinking about their website, and why would someone choose not to go private label?
Right. I would say that I just needed something today. I knew that if I had a product today that I could put into this article that was, ranking number 1 and the search volume was very high, I think it was like 2,500 at the time, that if I put myself number 1 on the product, it doesn't matter like pretty much what you put there, it's going to sell. And so I knew that I needed something today and I knew that I needed something fast. So private label was the route that I chose. Just
I've
slap
heard
my
someone
label
say
on,
too.
paint it a different color, and like we did slightly different molding, but it wasn't anything that affected the outcome of the product. But then we sold it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard someone else say, you could always start with private label to just get proof of concept, see if people are actually even interested in what you're going to sell before you go through all the work of building your own product and, all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Okay. So it's a private label setup. And
hmm
I suppose the next question would be, how did you pick which products to go after the private label? Was it literally just like, well, I sell dog brushes, a lot of them, so we'll look at that? Or were there any other qualifiers that you evaluated? Like, did you try to figure out the margins you could make on all this stuff? Or was it literally just, hey, I'm just going to start simple and move down a punch list?
Yeah, so the Amazon affiliates report, like the very first dog brush I put out, I did no research. I just went on Alibaba, AliExpress. I ordered some samples. It took forever to get here, and then, one thing led to another, and we finally released the product. I would say nowadays we are a little bit more data driven and data centric on what we're going to release. But essentially, it boils down to, can I rank articles in Google for organic traffic? Because that has been our success. So can I continue to rank articles in Google and sell our product on Amazon is what it comes down to. And then, of course, you have to look at your margins and whatnot. Everything else I don't really look into that much. Those are kind of the two main factors, because what it comes down to is if you can get traffic, you're going to sell the product. That's what it comes down to. And so kind of the next products that we are going to release are kind of more middle price range, so like between $20 and $30 price range. And this is the price range where I found that affiliates don't want to write articles about, because like if you're going to get 2% on $20, right? That's not very much money. And so I can write the article myself, get it ranked, and then basically have no competition and sell my own product at 30 or 40% profit margin, which is what kind of our strategy has been. And so we've been targeting kind of this middle priced products on Amazon, and being able to we have multiple websites now, so having multiple websites be able to rank and then sell externally has kind of been the key success here for us.
Great. Okay. That is an opportunity, because you're right. If I'm an affiliate marketer and I'm getting 3% from Amazon, I mean, at some point, is it worth it for me to write about a $20 product? Because I get 60 cents.
Right.
Just especially if I'm going to spend $100 on that article for a writer, all of a sudden it's like, boy, the ROI on this is not going to pencil out. But when you're owning the margin on that $20 product, that $30 product, and you get $15 every time you sell it or whatever it is. Okay. So when it comes to picking how to sell your own products on Amazon, now there's a bunch of different ways to do it, right? Now you opted for FBA, and that's fulfilled by Amazon. There's other ways to sell your own product. I mean, don't even have to go through Amazon. Technically, you could just set up like a WooCommerce or a Shopify storefront, right? And just kind of pack it all up in your garage. What are the different ways that you looked into for how to fulfill this product and sell it and ship it and all that? And why did you choose Amazon FBA?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And even today, we still use Amazon FBA, and it's mainly just because they have the warehouse facility, the shipping times, and then like I don't need to worry about fulfillment. That's the last thing that I wanted to worry about. I just wanted to essentially launch a product, um, and then see if it would work with roughly 30 to 40% profit margin. And so that's Amazon did all the logistics, fulfillment, and storage, and so that's why I still continue to use them today. We do have a WooCommerce site, or we originally started with WooCommerce. I would not use WooCommerce again. We switched to Shopify. And then even people who order from our store on Shopify, I just create what we call Amazon still fulfills the order even if they order on Shopify. So that is the power of Amazon. I don't want to have a bunch of inventory in my garage. I don't want to have to worry about logistics. They do the 2-day shipping for me, and my customers are happy.
How about customer service? Who handles, questions, returns, whatever, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so right now we have a VA who handles the customer service. So Amazon will get the returns, and then Amazon will either, there's three options. You can either like liquidate, you can have it returned to your address, or you can have them like resell it off. I basically have them just get rid of the product for me for returns because I don't want to have to deal with it coming to my house and whatnot. Um, but yeah, customer service, we have a VA who will answer uh, questions. We don't get that many. It's surprising. We only get like two per day. And
Oh,
then
that's nice.
yeah, returns is pretty low too. It's like only 1% return, 1 or 2% return rate. So
Wow.
basically we have Amazon hold it and then they'll dispose. We used to get we used to have them return it to our address, but we no longer do that since uh, it's pretty good. They're pretty good about it. So yeah,
What kind of
Amazon handles all the returns. It makes it easy.
That does make it easy. What kind of so you've tossed around the 30 to 40% margin. Maybe we could dive a bit more into margins so people could think through. And again, like that number is so tantalizing because you're right. We get 2 to 4% on Amazon as an affiliate. So when you're talking 30 to 40%, like that is a 15 to 30x jump in some cases in terms of our profit. So, how much of a ding do you take on your margins by having Amazon fulfill it versus if maybe somebody was like, let me just go all in and fulfill it from my garage and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple big questions here. The first one is that the only reason I would not have Amazon fulfill it is if I wanted the customer data. So Amazon does not provide you with the customer name, or they provide you with the
Mm.
name and the city and the state. That's it. So they don't provide you with any email address, any uh, like any other additional way to contact them. So if I needed people's information to upsell future products, then I would consider using probably a third-party logistics company or fulfilling it from my garage in order to get that data. But the power of having a website and you're likely already creating, people have a large email list already once you start getting a lot of traffic, is that I don't necessarily need that data to be successful. I already have an email list of like 30 to 40,000 people that I can tap into and get these kind of reoccurring buyers myself. But that's the only reason why I would choose to fulfill myself or a 3PL is if I wanted the customer information. And that is valuable, but um,
That's a good distinction.
yeah.
I hadn't even kind of thought of that as we were in the middle of the conversation, but you can't go back to Amazon clients and upsell to them or say, hey, we're running a special. We're doing this, we're doing that. They're kind of locked in Amazon world.
Right,
Okay, so you mentioned you have a Shopify store, and
right.
you mentioned you have a kind of an FBA or a brand on Amazon. What? So if I'm on your website and I'm organic traffic and I visit something about a dog brush and I click on a dog brush, am I going to your Shopify store or am I going to your Amazon store? And then how do the two play out? Which one's more profitable? I just want to understand like the connections of all these.
Yeah, so right now I'm referring to Amazon directly. I don't refer to my Shopify store, and there's one big reason for that. So on Amazon right now, it's called brand referral bonus, where they give you 10% of if you can get an external traffic to their site and make a sale, they'll give you 10%. So that is extremely lucrative, right? And that's why your profit margins are fairly high, especially in my case, is because you're getting 10% back from a brand referral bonus. And then a little secret is if you put your affiliate tag in the brand referral uh, bonus link too, you're getting double commission. So you're making like 13% back on a product that you know, if you were to send to Amazon in the beginning, it would just be 2% affiliate commission.
Is that
So
new? Is that different? Is that like only offered to people like you, or is that? I mean, man,
no, brand referral bonus has been around for at least the beginning of this year. We implemented it over 6 months ago, um, where you can refer your own brand and your own store and your own products, and then they'll give you the 10% because you are generating the sale essentially for them, and they're only doing.
So
fulfillment.
what's the
So
point of the Shopify store then?
just to get the customer data. So that's why we have one, but we're not pointing a lot of our traffic to it. We do make sales on our Shopify store, but I think that's mostly people probably coming from Amazon, or they don't have Prime or something like that, and they want free shipping. Uh,
Got it. Okay, so
but
your Shopify store just kind of lives on its own and picks up its own traffic on all by itself.
yeah, I'd say Shopify store is maybe 1 or 2% of our sales. Walmart is like 5% of, maybe like 2 to 3% of our sales, and then Amazon is the rest. So mainly Amazon.
And then on your Amazon store, how much of your sales, if you don't mind sharing or if you know, how much of your sales come from like, hey, I'm on Amazon searching for a dog brush versus, hey, I'm on Garrett's website, I get referred to buy a dog brush and I end up on Amazon?
So in the beginning, that's a really good question. And in the beginning, I had no idea like what Amazon FBA really was and how the algorithm really worked. And so when I first launched the product, I didn't run any of this pay-per-click stuff. I didn't do anything special. I just inserted it into my article. I did the Amazon Vine program to get, 20 initial reviews or whatever it is. And then that's how I started getting traffic. And everything, all the purchases were basically coming from my site in the beginning. And then now I would say it's a little bit hard to differentiate without the brand referral code, but I would say now it's almost 80% probably pay-per-click or Amazon algorithm, and then
Wow.
less than 20% my site, like way less than 20%.
So
But the
you,
conversion rate is really so. There's a couple things that the Amazon algorithm does is when I'm sending external traffic, and these are like bottom of the funnel articles. So these are like best dog brush, right? And this is
yep.
like you are ready to buy the dog brush. And so you're going to go to the number one product, you're going to go to Amazon, and you're just going to buy it. You're not really researching competitors. So the conversion rate on my website to Amazon was roughly 20%. So like 1 in 5 people were converting, which is very high on Amazon. So I think that had an impact on the algorithm as well as sending a lot of external traffic and getting external sales. And then it wasn't long before like I saw my brush show up on the like first page of Amazon essentially. And I never wanted to be the lowest price dog brush, but I never wanted to be the highest. So we're like kind of in this middle tier where, we are comfortable with the profit margins today. But now the breakdown is about 80%, probably even more than that, 90% organic Amazon and then 10% referral from our website.
So you have built up a true brand on Amazon. Yes, this website is a behemoth as well, but the brand that you have on Amazon is really the FBA brand is, like you said, 80, 90% self-sufficient outside of the website.
Correct, correct. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're trying to scale, but the only thing you really have to do at this point is maintain inventory and make sure you don't sell out. Um,
So let me ask you a couple more questions. I want to ask about inventory. I want to finish off though. You mentioned driving ads or pay per click on Amazon. What's that like? Some of us are familiar with Google AdWords, Google Ads. Some of us are familiar with obviously advertising on social media platforms. But what does Amazon ads look like?
yeah, so there's like 4 different types of categories. So I did Amazon ads myself for about 1 month, and then I quickly realized that this is arguably the most boring thing in the world, and then we outsourced it to an agency. But there are a lot of different kind of there's 4 major types of ads in Amazon, and I would say the sponsored display ads are the ones that when you type in dog brush, they'll show up at the top. So those are the ones that like generate the most sales. So you want to bid top of search for that and try to get to the top of there. And we were spending like I think for our keyword we're not targeting like dog brush. I think now we probably target dog brush, but we are targeting very low competition keyword. It's just the SEO mindset of very low competition keywords, very low cost per click that we're focused around doodles and that the conversion rate would be really, really high. And so we found a lot of success in that early. I think once we got like 20 reviews and they're basically all 5 star, that you can run pay per click and then generate sales because the way that uh, the Amazon algorithm works is they give you a bestseller rating, and like I would say the bulk of it is on how many sales do you make in a specific given period of time. So if you're not running pay per click and generating sales, you're not getting external traffic and generating sales, it's unlikely that you're going to rank high in Amazon organically. So we are forced to basically run pay-per-click, and but that also helped spur the growth of our brand.
Pay per click does help get you bestseller status.
Kurt, so they call it bestseller rating. It's kind of like your back-end rating for a specific product, but it'll help you get the badges. So like it was very helpful because I have the Amazon Choice badge, and there's different badges that show up basically on the top of search, and Amazon pushes those products. Um, but generating sales is what essentially helps you with that, getting a higher bestseller rating, and then getting the badges from Amazon that help you get organic sales.
Got it. Okay. Now I'm looking at my notes here. You've expanded into, I think you said 8 products or 8 ASINs. That's like an Amazon term for products, basically. Like, I know I'm over summarizing it, but for today's conversation, you have about 8 products. You went from 1 to 8, inventory, developing these, figure like I mean, we're coming up on time, but how did you expand from 1 to 8, managing inventory, managing this process? I'm just curious about the expansion and the scalability of it.
Yeah, so the approach that I took is I don't know that much about FBA. I still don't know today. And so it's important that you find somebody who does. So, it helps that I had a private affiliate on my website at the time who was also doing FBA, and I think he was doing like, I don't know, $100 million a year or something like that. And I asked him to be my mentor essentially. So I was like, okay, um, I'll do a private affiliate on my website, give me 10 to 15%, really low number, but then you have to mentor me in this FBA space. And I think that's what helped is, I created this relationship for he can advertise on my website, but then in return he kind of gives me advice on FBA. And then I've just been able to scale the FBA side as well. So we have people like in the customer service, and then mainly we went through agencies. So we have an agency for PPC, we have an agency for listing, um, and whatnot. But that's kind of the thought process there behind it.
Got it. Got it. How's inventory? I mean, that's always seems to be a bugaboo or a frustration or
Yeah,
something when I talk to people who manage e-com. How have you managed to handle all of that?
there's no perfect solution to inventory, and like, as we launched on Amazon, and they kind of give you like a linear projection on, oh, you're gonna sell that much, but then like when we first launched and our brush started getting traction, like the curve is exponential. So I think there was times where we were sold out 2 or 3 times, especially because it takes like 60 days to manufacture, minimum 30 days to get to the US, so you're planning at least 90 days out, and it's impossible to predict the curve. So nowadays, what I do is I order a lot if I know that it's going to sell out, and I don't necessarily send it all to Amazon FBA. I do keep some in my garage, um, just in case like we do get to that point because it's important that you don't sell out because it does affect your bestseller rating,
Okay.
especially on Amazon side.
I've heard that. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to go dark for a while there. Um,
Hmm.
we've worked with many at my agency. We've worked with many e-com brands over the years who do FBA, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Hey, so I want to ask a little bit about revenue, and if you're comfortable, kind of giving us a little bit of an idea, because I think this is the challenge in the back of my head, right? Like when you start talking to e-commerce brands, revenue numbers can get really high in comparison to profit
Hmm.
numbers. And I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but a lot of us are used to thinking more on the content website side of things where our costs are very minimum. Now, our revenue isn't very high in comparison, but it's because our revenue we generate has arguably lower costs. So, help. I'm trying to talk to someone right now who's maybe sitting on a website that could be potential for going over and doing all this FBA stuff. It's a lot of work though. You're doing like, you're projecting 4 million, it looks like,
Yeah.
from FBA or e-commerce earnings in 2023. Like, if you can try to help us understand what the profit kind of looks like on something like that after you kind of factor in all these costs like inventory and agencies and these sorts of things.
Yeah, I would say that my profit margin, if you kind of do the calculations and you're probably targeting like 30% profit margin or something, somewhere along those lines. Realistically, like after PPC and everything, it's probably like 20%. Um, so maybe like 20% profit margin is what you're probably getting. But for me, like I'm still in growth mode. I don't necessarily need the money. So a lot of this money and time is spending into putting into new products into inventory as well. Because Amazon is very heavy with upfront money and upfront costs. Like as you accumulate inventory, that costs a lot of money that doesn't necessarily sell until a later date. Um, but yeah, we are going from 8 products this year, and we'll have at least 20 by the end of the year.
Hmm.
So as you can invest or envision, my profit margin for my existing products is probably 20 something percent, but I'm spending all that money and basically all the money from ads and private affiliates from the website as well to expand into Amazon FBA just because I see the opportunity. And
So
so,
basically, in a nutshell, people can think about it like, hey, right now I make 2 to 4% on an affiliate deal through Amazon. I could get to 20% if
yeah, I
I.
think you could easily get to 20%, I think, but it's also important to know that you are diversifying away from Google, right? You're basically your
Mhm.
website is like one penalty away from losing 50% of its traffic. Um, so you're diversifying away from Google, which is important, and then also is you're creating a brand. So I never knew that like in this e-commerce space, like we're selling so many of these brushes, so many shampoos, but you're creating a brand and something no, some like a lot of people know about my brand now, which is crazy. And I think that that has a lot of inherent value. So if you do go to resell your business, um, that is like a big part of the resale value as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. You've got a full brand on Google right now, in terms of like generating traffic from Google, that is, and then you got a full brand on kind of FBA. And I wanted to. That was how I kind of wanted to wrap things up here. We kind of know where you're at. We spent the second half of the conversation talking about your FBA brand and you're building it, and you're going from 1 product to 8 products to 20 products and 1 million to 4 million to who knows what in revenue. We got your
Yeah.
margins and the process, inventory. Maybe let's finish by circling back to the website. And if we can, like, let's look at the website. What is the website doing nowadays in terms of maybe traffic or number of articles that we have live on that, page views, earnings? Like, I just would kind of love to go back and finish off that conversation on the website.
Yeah, sure. So my website's been pretty passive. So like as you can imagine that I still do the keyword research as I mentioned in the beginning, I create the kind of topical clusters. But aside from that, it's pretty much on autopilot today. And I'm focusing 95% of my time on the FBA side and trying to expand and launch new products because the revenue for that is like exponential. E-commerce side, if you can add on, it's really exponential revenue when compared to SEO, right? SEO is like pretty linear. Maybe you get bumped by Google and you go down a little bit, but you're never going to grow exponentially on SEO, especially for an informational site or an affiliate website. So it's been pretty consistent. The website is basically passive income. I think we're on AdThrive Platinum Elite, so I think it's like minimum, pretty close to $500,000 a year on the ad side. And then on the e-commerce side, yeah, we're doing should at least do $4 million this year. I'd be surprised if we didn't hit that number.
How many articles do you have live now? Are you still producing new content on the website? Are you still, when you
We
say
are,
passive,
yeah,
like, are
yeah.
you investing in it or is it just you're letting it sit?
We are investing in it, but it's not at a certain point. There's just like so many keywords that you can write about, and I think we have like 5,000 articles on the website now,
Wow. Yeah.
if not maybe slightly more. So as you can imagine, that's a lot of articles on like mixed dog breeds. There's only so much you can produce, and I think last year we probably averaged 400,000 words per month, and then
Okay.
this year we definitely tapered down. We're more focusing on going back and editing the content
Hmm.
that was written, provide up-to-date facts and um, whatnot, but we still are producing at least 100,000 words per month, I would guess.
So still a lot of traffic, obviously. Still a lot of, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
over 500,000 a year from AdThrive, that's a healthy monthly earnings, but you're investing in updating articles. You've got a lot of articles live, so that's probably a pretty healthy process. 5,000 articles live to go back and update.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. The 500,000 is throughout my portfolio though, so I do own probably like 4 or 5 major websites, and then that number is a yearly revenue number. But yeah, it kind of gives you a good idea of what content and display ads can do for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were saying that website really only supplies about 10 to 20% of the revenue for the FBA brand. And so,
Right.
the FBA brand has clearly kind of grown into its own brand of its own, although connected to the website.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as you know, like for people starting as well, that 95% of your content is going to be informational, and then 5% is probably going to be affiliate or bottom of the funnel. So we can only really capitalize on that bottom 5% of the articles that we are putting out. So it's not going to be like a one-to-one translation, but um, yeah, it has helped and grown exponentially.
Well, I mean, it flew by. I feel like we could have gone deeper on the website. Obviously, I think a lot of people will still be having some questions there. And the FBA side of things, that was so enlightening and so many more things we could have gotten into. But you brought a ton of value. I know my head is spinning with ideas and potential. I'm sure a lot of people's are. Where can, well, thank you. That was kind of the point of that. Thank you for coming on and sharing so much. Where can people follow along with what you have going on? Anywhere you can direct them to?
Yeah, I have nothing to promote. I'm just a big fan of Spencer's and been following him a long time. But if you guys do have questions or you want to reach out, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. It's just Garrett Yamasaki, and you'll probably see me up there. I'll send a link to you guys as well.
Yeah, we'll get in the show notes, hopefully. Be down there for you. Man, Garrett, thank you for coming by. This was fun. I really enjoyed learning all about how you're scaling this business, and it gives everybody a lot of motivation. So thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. Happy to be here.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
What a masterpiece PR link building campaign, with 20 links in big publications such as The Sun, Express, Mirror, Wales Online, and still landing. I would say this campaign is a massive success. We told the press that people should turn on their heating this summer if they want to save money next winter. And we landed over 20 links in national and regional UK publications for our boiler client. That's crazy. The campaign hook was pretty clever. It is a known fact, at least in the boiler trade, that if you keep your boiler off for many months, it might rust and it might get you into trouble if you keep it turned off from spring to next winter. We therefore advise the press, with an expert commentary piece, on behalf of our boiler client, that people should turn on their boilers this summer just when the heat wave is in full swing. This way they can avoid a boiler failure next winter and save money. Massive publications picked up our story, including The Sun, Express, Mirror, Wales Online, and a few more dozen publications, giving our client links, lots of links, and lots of happiness hormones. No wonder that so many journalists covered our story, as this headline is a massive link magnet to their audience. This case study highlights the fact that a clever hook can be applied to any insight or story to make a campaign more successful and more compelling to journalists. Can you imagine when people see this headline in the news, "You should turn on your boiler this summer"? There's no way they would not click on it. I would click on it. So this was the hook, and this is why this campaign was so successful. I hope this video inspires and shows you what's possible with a clever hook.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now.